Welcome back to Meet Us Munich. I'm absolutely happy to have you here today. And a couple of weeks ago, I made an overview video on Manage More and everything you should know. So if you're interested in checking that out, definitely do so. I also made a guide so you have everything at first glance. But now that applications are approaching, I thought it would be very interesting to share a little bit about what does the website say in terms of what you need to apply, and then also the application process. And then at the end, I will also incorporate a little bit of what I said, and so you have like an example. So definitely stay until the very end so you can go through and see what a successful Manage More application looks like. So let's get straight into this one. So the official requirements from the website are that you're studying in Munich until the third university semester and you have very good grades. And I feel like the main thing that you take away from here is Munich, because it's a very kind of presence-focused program, especially in the first semester. So I know people who commute from Freising, which is like the northern part of Munich, and I think that is like already a very hard commitment in terms of Manage More, because there are some buses to Garching, but I mean, you just need to take into account that you are probably going to meet these people on a very regular basis, and then it's kind of Munich-based in terms of like, that is something which I think you should take into consideration. And in terms of grades, don't be deterred if you don't have the best and the perfect grades. I think especially also in scientific or in STEM subjects in general, I think everybody knows that it's not as easy to get a very good grade compared to maybe business administration. So that will really depend on kind of your individual part. The second one is that you would like to take on management responsibilities, start your own company, or act innovatively as an entrepreneur in companies. Now, I think this is really gives you a little bit of a space. I think what really shines out of here is that you take ownership and you take responsibility. Now, whether that is your own company, whether that is acting innovatively companies, I think the idea here is that you are interested, you are curious, you want to learn something, and you really want to shape the world at the end. The third one is that you like to take responsibility, act solution-oriented, think innovatively, and are interested in developing yourself personally and professionally. And I think this is really so important because there are so many opportunities for you to develop yourself at Manage More, both personally and professionally, as they say. And so also as a team, we work very closely on feedback loops, on kind of giving feedback, on knowing how can you improve really. And so I think that is a very important thing to show that this is something which you already do, you act solution-oriented, you are eager to learn. You think and act entrepreneurially in your everyday life and environment. And I think this is especially important if you are not maybe super from the entrepreneurial ecosystem, if you have not founded your own startup or work in a startup, then you can show through everyday life that you are still the right candidate. Now, what do I mean by that? Now, for example, a very basic example is Alexis Ohanian or other very famous entrepreneurs who say that, hey, they go through life, or Richard Branson, and they see a problem, they write it down, and then they think about a solution. And just kind of looking at that, for example, being solution and problem driven and acting entrepreneurial in your everyday lives, I think especially important if you do not come, as I said, from the typical backgrounds. Fifth, you have initial experiences in interdisciplinary project and teamwork and or are already involved in entrepreneurial activities. And I think this is especially important because we all work in teams which are mostly self-organized. I mean, of course, we have the incredible support from the program management team, but it is a lot of work which you do on your own. And I think when you've done teamwork before, you know, how do you act? What is your role? What are maybe hiccups when you're working in a team? And that just makes it a lot easier. And then seventh is that you will be based in Munich throughout the program. You will not be doing a full-time internship or something similar parallel to Manage More. And I mean, I can't stress this enough because, I mean, speaking from experience, it's not a good idea to load on way too much and then have Manage More. And if you have a full-time internship, I don't know where you would take the time from because you have to be, especially if it's an internship where you need to be in the office, it's just not going to work because you have so many, the onboarding and all these kind of events and the workshops, that is going to be very, very difficult. So definitely, if you can, give it the space that it deserves and give the time. All right, so let's go a little bit through the kind of questions, and I'm going to share first of my tips, and then I'm going to walk you through how I answered them so you have a little bit of an idea. So the first one is, which station or experience has had a particular impact on you recently? And I think what is always nice is kind of having it somehow related to entrepreneurship. I mean, this is an entrepreneurial scholarship, right? So be always aware of what you're applying to, and then if you can kind of link it to Manage More, have a bridge, and just kind of really show like what the impact is. So I think what I really noticed when I screened interviews applications last semester was that sometimes it was a bit too general, and we don't know you, I don't know you, you could be the best candidate in the world, but there's really like a balance between like showing details and not rambling on that you don't get to the point. So kind of that combination of being concise and detailed. And so, for example, for me, it was kind of talking about being a finance associate and working at startups because I had not founded something. So as you can see, I really said, okay, this was something which shaped me. And then the question is, how did it shape me and what did it impact? And I chose to kind of both relate it to the personal and to the professional viewpoint, because that is what actually happened. So personal, I said, okay, like I pushed myself out of the comfort zone. I really saw what it was like to be a founder. And then professionally, I learned so much, not only pitching, but also other hard skill sets. So that was something I think which showed them that it was like a three-dimensional person, a three-dimensional perspective. And I think when you show different facets of yourself and show that you really thought this question through, it helps you a lot. Now the second one is, what is particularly important to you for your, in general, or your professional future? And I think this is really interested also if you can somewhat relate to innovation, entrepreneurship, side business, or somewhere where Manage More can maybe help you along the lines. Now, obviously, if you're somebody who's super interested into founding, that's a very easy question probably for you, because you can talk about what you want to found. But for me, like if you look at how I answer the question, it's actually not so much related to founding or entrepreneurship, because that would have not been authentic. Like at that point, I did not know if I want to be actually a founder. I knew I was interested in entrepreneurship, which I said in the first question, but I did not know if that was going to be the path for me. So I would rather kind of set the classic 3 points, you know, and this is a very basic rhetorical point that people remember quite well, 3 and the kind of uneven numbers. And so I said, you know, what rang through to myself, which was first off that I need to find something stimulating, something which drives me in my future. And second, the kind of becoming jack of knives, and I stand 100% by that. I heard this concept of the and person first on Ali Abdaal's channel, no sponsorship obviously, way too little, but basically it's the idea that you become this multifaceted personality. You're not only a business student, you're also a sister, you're also a cook, you're also a painter, you're also a philosopher, a psychologist. Like you have so many different facets of yourself, and I find this incredibly fascinating from the humanistic perspective, because you learn different ways how to think, and that can really shape you. And that was something I was very passionate about. And third was the fact of giving back and the role of education. And as you can see, it is something which is very authentic to me, because that's why I'm doing this YouTube channel. I want to provide the best free education on the Munich student and entrepreneurial ecosystem. If you like that, please subscribe. But basically, yes, that's kind of what rang true to myself. So don't, even though I recommend you kind of knowing what you apply for, and that it is very entrepreneurship focused, that you kind of skew your answers or choose your examples purposefully, I would not recommend for you to just completely change it and say like, I want to be a founder, if that is not true to you. Now the third one is that what team conflict have you experienced recently and how did you deal with it? Now I think especially when reading applications last semester, it was, some of them were maybe too generalistic, so it didn't really go that much into depth. And I think what is really interesting is to kind of reflect on your position in the conflict. So how did you handle it? Could it have been prevented? What was your role? Were you proactive? Were you reactive? What was really happening for you? And for me, for example, when I answered this question, it was actually a quite untypical team conflict, because it was about the social dynamics. But I thought, hey, this is a conflict which actually was interesting to me and which really impacted me personally, and I can talk about this because first off I said, okay, like this is something which is part of human nature pretty much, like we all are social creatures. Exclusion and inclusion is something which happens very naturally in groups and group dynamics. And then also being introspective and saying, hey, like I didn't understand and I didn't act actually as I should have done from the beginning. But I kind of ignored the problem for a while, and then I acted, and but now I'm acting, and I'm doing this. So kind of ending with a call to action or showing really what you changed in the end is, I think, very powerful. And then the last one is help us to better understand your motivation for participating in Manage More, what learning goals you want to achieve with Manage More, what you want to focus on with Manage More over 3 semesters, and why do you want to invest 15 to 20 hours of your time every week. Now, this is really the time where you shine. This is the time where you show that you understand the program, that you know what you want to take out of it, that you know what you want to give back to it. And also what I did, and I'm going to show you now in this example, is that I like to kind of link to different other questions, because the way that interviewers do it, and I also did, is that you read the questions chronologically. So if you can kind of show that you've implemented these ties, it kind of helps. So I started off kind of with the fact that I did not view it as a burden, because burden obviously has, I think, a very negative connotation, but rather as a privilege, and I stand 100% by that, because it's a free program. You learn so many skills, you're part of this community, which is incredibly uplifting, of this network, and it's just something which I really see as more of a privilege than kind of having to invest these 15 to 20 hours. And then I think I related it back to kind of how I said I want to be this jack of knives, and I said, you know, I want to develop my interdisciplinary skill set further, and that is something which I think I can learn and manage more. And then in terms of goals, I also used again the number 3. So I said, okay, like especially now at the beginning, one of the parts is obviously the community and the network, and you know, I said, you know, I knew people from there, they were inspiring to me, and that was definitely the case. But I want to really get more into this and really start relationships, to engage with people. And then the second one was not only, I didn't want to only talk about the soft skills, but also about the hard skills. Like, what are the hard skills which I want to learn? And for me, by then, it was actually the innovation skills, which I saw firsthand how Manage More alumni at Foundry were actually using them. And I was like really lost with all these post-its and the design thinking. And I was like, what is going on here? And I really wanted to learn that. Now, the third one was also a little bit about what I said before, that, you know, I didn't know if I want to do entrepreneurship as a career. And I said, you know, I find this interesting. Like I said in the first question, it shaped me, it impacted me, but I don't know yet. And I want to find out through Manage More. And I can say to you, after doing Manage More now, I'm definitely closer to the answer of this question. And I think what I also try to is really show them that you understand the program well. What I mean by that, if you see, is that, for example, I included the mentoring and the coaching offerings, and what kind of workshops do they have, and I want to use this. I want to really make the most out of this educational offering, and I think that is a very nice message to have, that you understand what is at offer and how you want to do this. Now, I hope this gave you like a little bit of an overview by, you know, me sharing kind of what my application document looked like, what a successful Manage More application looks like. Obviously, every application is different, but I just thought it might kind of be useful for yourself. And yeah, incredibly cliche, but being authentic always pays out. And definitely, I think breaking things down to a reader who does not know you, I think is important, because sometimes we take things for granted. We know that the person is going to get what we're trying to say, and reading the application sometimes it's not. So definitely that balance between being concise but still detailed and not going on and on about the same topic is something which, yeah, is a skill. Now, if you have any questions, obviously feel free to comment it down below or reach out to me personally on LinkedIn. I'm more than happy to help. Definitely get feedback on your application. Ask people, hey, is this understandable? Is there something? What is your key message which you took away from this? What do you want to learn? Thanks for watching. If you like the content I'm doing, definitely consider subscribing. Until then, all the best.